allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let's say welcome and Happy New Year, but I'm just saying it to you guys. Happy 2025. We have no public hearings. We have no appointments by the select board. We have one appointment by the fire chief. I'll take a motion related to that.
Madam Chair, I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Vitor Tassinari as an auxiliary firefighter at Station 2.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And we're going to skip over our next, under new business, proclamation for Bill Murphy. He's not able to come this evening, but it sounds like he's going to be on our next agenda. So we will just skip over that for this evening and chat with him next time around. And so moving on to the host community agreement related to Hayes Cannabis at 135 Westboro Road.
Yeah, so I don't see Colonel Booth here,
Okay.
which I believed was going to be in attendance, but I can give you kind of the 35.
He's on.
Oh, there
Never
he is.
mind, I
Great.
found him.
Hi, Mr. Booth. Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you guys hear me?
Yes. Great. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So, Colonel, I was just going to give the kind of overview. If you're good with that, I'll just continue on.
Sure.
So this is it's an updated HCA that is compliant with what the Cannabis Control Commission now requires. The major changing points really revolve around kind of use of the facility. So before it had been just a retailer and project manufacturer, correct, Mr. Booth?
Yes.
Yes, and so we've expanded that in under Mr. Booth's request to be an indoor cultivator as well as a transporter. It is, I think, important to note for people that don't do this very often, transporter is not delivery. Transport is from facility to facility, essentially. The other major changes are as far as the community impact fees go. As we know, those are pretty much non-existent at this point, so there's some changes around that. We did still carry the 3% that falls on the tax side of the house, but the community impact fees are gone and are negligible anyways, to be quite honest with you. And I don't think that we really had a good argument to make that there's a huge impact to the community, so that money has kind of gone away across the board, but in this case especially. And then I think, unless Colonel, you think I missed anything, those are really the big changes.
Yes, those are the major points on the updates.
The rest of it, I think, was town council's review and Cannabis Control Commission's review and kind of changing legalese to meet what's happening with the Cannabis Control Commission now and some of the changes that they've had. Any questions, or can I?
Any questions from the board, Andy?
Through you, Madam Chair, actually, for Mr. Booth. I know there's been some comments and stuff online. Do you have any idea of your timeline for opening?
Yes. So we recently had one of many actually licensing related inspections. So we had our post provisional license inspection this past Friday, and so from what the inspectors told me, the process is typically, I want to say 2 to 3 months from that date. So what they have to do is, this was for one of the two licenses. They came in to do an inspection for the manufacturing license, and at some point next month, they will do the inspection for the retail license. After the inspections are done, they craft a report that gets submitted to the Cannabis Control Commission, and then from there, they would vote to approve for me to be in what's called post final licensure, which is pre-opening. What that allows me to do is to hire employees, train employees, and background check all of employees, and then they come back again for another inspection to make sure that the employees are well versed on the SOPs, that they have all passed the background checks, that everything is set up and approved through the town, and then they go back to the commission with another report, and then I get put on an agenda to be voted on for an opening date. It's a really slow and drawn out process, but I was told it would take roughly 3 months.
3 months. Sorry, excuse me. 3 months to get through to that next phase of the inspection and reporting process.
3 months to get through all of the phases. So I have one more, what's called a post provisional licensing inspection for the retail store, which would be sometime next month. Then they would come back physically again. I'm assuming they'd most likely be back physically again early March. So when they come back physically again on site, they would then craft another report, which is essentially stating, and revolving around employees. They're very diligent in regards to the background checks, and we have to go through a series of responsible vendor trainings, which to make sure that we're competent to handle cannabis products. So once those inspections are through, then they will put me on an agenda for the commission to give me what's called the commence operations date. So I'm anticipating that to be in March, and that at that point both licenses will be in a position to commence operations.
Excellent.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, so we have sorry, I skipped ahead. A motion here?
Yep.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. I move the board vote to approve the host community agreement with Hayes of Grafton LLC and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thank you so much, Colonel, for coming in. Appreciate it. Good
Thank you
luck.
very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Thought I was being prudent skipping through all the documents there. Anyway. All right, moving on. We have a memorandum of understanding with the Grafton Water District. I think we have a couple of folks in to speak to us about that. Hi. Yeah, if you want to come on up, have a seat or stand. Matt is here via Zoom.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hey, Matt.
Good evening.
Hi,
Good
Dave.
evening.
You want me to give a 35,000-foot overview?
Yeah, I think that would be
Oh.
easiest.
Sure. Everyone always does. So this agreement really is a few years probably in the making. We started discussing, I think, hydrant fees and other partnership opportunities back in my first year here. And really just have had, I think, a productive conversation about it and working relationship as we moved closer and closer to trying to put something in writing that gives both sides some stable idea of how to operate. So, in essence, the town pays hydrant fees to the district. We were up around $70,000 prior to this fiscal year. This fiscal year, the district did vote to give us a waiver on that, as we were tight on our budget, which we were most appreciative of. And so the town recognizes that we do need to supplement at least some funds to help cover the costs of maintenance of these hydrants and making sure that they work and installation and so on and so forth. So this agreement caps those fees at $20,000. We also have had quite a conversation about town permits. So the water district is doing a number of projects, but most specifically the PFAS related treatment plants, which can run up some pretty hefty permit fees. And so we were looking to relieve the Grafton Water District of paying those fees. It does seem like, while not a direct town department, they are a quasi-governmental organization that provides drinking water to Grafton residents. And so it did seem like something that we would want to enter into a partnership for, especially given the high cost of these projects and the situation we find ourselves in with PFAS. So we want to help in any ways that we can. I think that's pretty much the high level of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much
Okay.
my knowledge of it. I know you've been working with Matt a lot on this.
Yeah, but I feel comfortable that that's pretty much it. It's a agreement that I think benefits both the town and the water district, and helps continue the partnership that you've had for years and that I've had for the past 4 years. So.
Okay, thanks. Any questions from the board? Or Matt, or do you have anything else to add? Sounds like it's
Nope,
pretty
Evan did a great job.
clear cut, yep. And when it says, we'll be reviewing it prior to the start of the fiscal year.
Yep.
Is that
It's basically just a
June date or?
yeah. So that'll be prior to July 1,
Okay.
and it's really just an opener in there for if the town decides this is no longer a
Right.
good deal, or the water district says no, this is no longer working for us. It
Right.
gives a way to restart that conversation.
My question was just so like we're dating it now, so are we reviewing it again June 30th or?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, we won't, but that's the idea. I don't think unless we immediately run into a problem, but I
Gotcha.
think that it's really for future town administrators and water district folks to have an out.
Okay, great.
Madam Chair, just a quick
Yep,
question.
Mr. Alamo.
Was B also, like, was that pre-existing or is that also new?
No, it's a way. Actually, Matt had brought this to my attention. It's a way. Yes, that's a good point. Sorry, I skipped one thing. So the town is not being
I
charged.
thought it was me.
You're doing a great job, Mark. The town also receives. We don't pay for water on the municipal side of the house. And so I had written basically they'll continue to waive fees. That's been a long-standing agreement. With the exception of DEP required backflow testing, which Matt had brought to my attention, which really is above and beyond kind of what we can expect for those folks to do to make our pay our requirement with our facility. So I thought that was a good catch, and good catch, Mark. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yeah, Mr.
just a quick comment. I'm in favor of this. I think this mechanism of fee relief or waiving fees is analogous to what I'm asking the board to consider for the Affordable Housing Trust with the grant. It's obviously clean water is a public good and a public benefit, and I'm in full support of that. I do owe the board the memo from the Affordable Housing Trust, which I will get to the board forthright. But I hope that if we're going to support this, we're also going to support the Housing Trust and permit relief for 1727 Upton.
Madam Chair,
Yep, Mr. Downey.
I would say that I think those are two very different things. We have a long-standing working relationship with the water district. I know we share labor, we share equipment. There's wells on town property. I think both entities have a long history of doing a lot for each other. So in the spirit of that, I think this is the right thing to do. As far as a private developer building a project in town, we've never done that for anybody, and that's a completely different set of circumstances. So I don't think doing this by any means is setting a precedent towards giving it to a private developer building a project in town. Just say that, but I'm for this. I think this is a good idea.
Yeah. I
Appreciate
think
you bringing
that
it up.
Can be a discussion for another day, but okay. Any other discussion relative to this particular topic?
Madam Chair?
Mr. Upton?
Yeah, let's hope. I don't want to necessarily get into an argument about that, but the permit relief actually goes to the Affordable Housing Trust. So the developer doesn't have to pay that. They reimburse the Housing Trust. And I would characterize the relationship with the Housing Trust as also mutually beneficial. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, anything else? If not, I will,
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Grafton Water District and authorize the chair to sign.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Thanks so much for coming in to both of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work on this, Evan.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
Okay, moving along, considering a vote to withdraw from the Mass Strategic Health Group.
Yep, so this is quasi-procedural. So as the town looks to explore its options regarding health insurance for our employees, we do have certain procedural deadlines that we need to make with our current arrangement. And so what this letter does is put them on notice that we intend to withdraw. It doesn't fully withdraw us, but it puts us in a position so that if we do need to move to a different provider, we can do so. So we have issued an RFP to solicit price quotes from other vendors, and we are also meeting with our PEC committee to discuss all possibilities, including GIC or self-insure options. So that's all that this does.
Okay.
Great.
Any,
Question.
yep, go ahead.
So is this a procedural thing that we have to give them notice within
Yes.
X amount of days?
Yep. So within a contract that we have with them, that's exactly what it is. It's procedural.
Are they gonna be looking to rebid it for this coming year, do you know?
So we just did an RFP in the strategic health group side for a new management company, which a new management company was selected. And so we are keeping an eye on that as well, because that can change our cost structure quite a bit.
New management company within the health insurance?
Correct. Yep. Yeah, so Mass Strategic is, whatever the 17 towns that are part of it, and then we have a group that runs it, which was Gallagher Group. And then we did an RFP, and now the new health insurance manager is going to be NFP. If you don't work in the municipal world, none of those make any difference to you.
Right.
But it is shifting the structure and the operation of how Mass Strategic works. And so this doesn't guarantee that we move on if we don't find a more favorable rate. I don't know what the employee committee will do, but this gives us options to explore and doesn't handcuff us into another agreement.
I have, so with this notice, we're not looking at the potential to be fined or something for
No,
pulling out
nope.
early.
I already did my part of the notice to the chair, so they're well aware, and we're within what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay, so there's no financial implications,
No.
just gives us the ability to go and see what else is
Yep.
out there.
Yeah, it also gives us the ability to say, no, we're gonna stay. Just gives us options.
Any other questions? Comments?
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to withdraw from Mass Strategic Health Group effective June 30, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Okay, and now we just have a couple of license renewals. These were two of well, maybe we just have one, but we'll see where we're at. A couple of the businesses that might have missed the earlier date. So could just take a motion, potentially.
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Mr.
do you wanna do these one at a time?
One at a time, yeah.
Yeah, motion to grant a common viculars license renewal to First Bite Cafe.
Second.
And actually, that's the one that we had the little change to, that it's contingent upon approval from the Board of Health. So just to add that to
Okay,
the
make
motion.
that, add that to the motion, please.
And then you'll second that again?
Second that.
Okay. Any discussion? And that was just brought to our attention that they just had another T to cross with the Board of Health prior to getting this all through. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. We'll move on to the Donut Star.
Madam Chair, motion to grant a common viculars license held by Donut Star.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion?
Well, just one question, is this new ownership here?
I don't believe so.
Yes. I
Oh,
think
it is?
But it was last year as well. This is their second year.
Oh, yeah, so it's not, but it's not new for this cycle.
Correct.
Oh, I just heard it sold again, that's all.
I don't believe so.
No?
No, I don't think so either. This is the same person that we did common victular for last last year.
So these people have been here 12 months, 12 plus months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. It's a very aggressive aye, Mark.
So sorry. I am a little bit aggressive today.
You like donuts?
Yeah, yeah, there you
I gotta
go. That
cool
might
this
be
thing
it.
out.
Okay, moving along to the Cable Oversight Committee charge and just talking about some potential revisions to that. I think that Mark and Evan were both going to discuss this a little bit.
Yes, Madam Chair. So just continuing on the discussion, I think you all remember that we've been looking at the Cable Oversight Committee and opened up a conversation some time ago about revising that committee to becoming more current and more in alignment with the other 350 some odd towns in Massachusetts, making it a cable advisory committee. So really essentially moving it from like a tactical to more of a strategic approach, or a more strategic committee. And with that, just spent some time with Evan going through what would that charge look like. And we went through a series of a bunch of different towns and arrived at the charge that's in the packet. Just one note that I don't think is in the packet, and I caught it at the last minute, would be the name of the committee is not in the packet. It says Cable Oversight Committee in the packet, but the new charge would look Cable Advisory Committee. So you've all seen it. If you have any questions, we can walk through it. The idea, though, was I think Evan and I were thinking we would talk about it here as a team. If you're comfortable with what the language that you see here versus the language that it used to be, there's some updates to it. And then again, it's very similar to other towns. It's not like we're charting new territory. We're kind of more in compliance with what people have been doing already. So, and then it just as a note that Bob does report to Evan. So those sort of day-to-day kind of conversations, decisions, planning, strategy, etc., runs through him. And then the advisory committee, the proposed advisory committee, would be more advisory. They would be looking at bigger picture things like licensing, some of the things that they already do, maybe new technologies, providing updates to the select board on things that are happening, things that we should be aware of, and then probably stay at more the 10,000 foot level versus like that day-to-day decision making for capital expenditures or whatever that comes up. Right. Like if it's up to you.
Just let that go.
Buy a table, buy a table. If you don't, Evan says no, then the answer is
It's
no.
been-
And if this team is in agreement, then we would go to the next level, which would be invite in the committee and talk to them about it.
Great. I like the charge. I like the new charge. It's great. Good job.
Evan,
Thank
kudos.
Yeah, we stole it from some other town. But it is well written, I thought. Yeah.
You're stealing good information here.
I'm real good at stealing good information. No, I think Mark covered all the bases. The major change is the kind of budgetary oversight and the day-to-day operational oversight of spending. The rest of it is pretty well in line with what the original charge was, with just some kind of modernized language is how I would put that.
Madam Chair?
Yep, Mr. Upton.
I think the charge is great. The only, I guess, minor question that I had was around the citizen complaints. That seems like the receipt of those maybe should go to the department head to be dealt with. And just, I guess my ask would be for us to consider rewording that just a little bit to say that the Cable Advisory Committee would be made aware of those. But in a similar way that, like, we don't deal with most of the resident concerns, a lot of it goes through staff. As we're moving this, like the blocking and tackling to the department head, citizen complaints seems like it would sort of fall into that day-to-day realm potentially. So it says receive and evaluate, so I don't know. It's a minor thing, but
Madam Chair, if I may. So I agree to a certain extent. One thing that I want to point out is that it's receiving and evaluates and complaints, concerns, and suggestions regarding cable service compliance with the agreement. So it's really speaking to the cable agreements that they are a part of negotiating and not say like the day-to-day what Bob is doing type of thing. And so I think as your committee, they're supposed to, the idea here is that, you know, charter is too expensive, okay? That's feedback they'll give to you during your negotiation. Channel 15 never works and I really want it to work. Absolutely. Grafton TV doesn't have the band that I like anymore. That's a Datoma thing. And so maybe we could craft just a little bit further language to
Maybe content
make-
goes to Bob,
make that
content
clear.
concerns.
Yeah.
Does
Right.
sound
That makes
like a
perfect
reasonable
sense to
thing?
me. Just the flag for me was
Yeah.
the citizen complaints.
Maybe you could just, if you struck suggestions and put related specifically to
Mhm.
matters concerning cable service compliance, blah, blah, blah.
But
Yeah.
Just,
So
just a
kind of-
little
Yeah,
clarification.
I think that's great.
So if
We
we
can do
strike
that.
suggestions and put related specifically to, and then the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cable service, or suggestions concerning cable service. Okay, anything else from the board? Yep, Mr. Jefferson?
Have you had a chance to speak to staff about any of this or review anything? I'm assuming you don't have any concerns about what the reaction will be.
I don't, and so staff and I haven't sat down since this. I kind of wanted to see what direction the board was going to want to take it in. But I will say that I feel that this is congruent with previous conversations that I had. So I don't have any major concerns.
Anything else from the board? So in terms of talking to the committee about the changes, like, do you have a plan for that, Mark? Not this, for the cable advisory, or the, whatever it's
Yep.
called right now?
When
Cable
we've got
oversight.
this set, the charge set, I say I recommend that we invite them in to have the discussion and to walk through it publicly, together.
Okay,
I think we're close enough. I mean, we're talking some really minor language.
Yep.
Yeah.
If the rest of the board's okay with that,
Mhm.
I'd be in favor of just bringing them in
So, next meeting, or whenever everybody,
whenever it's convenient.
whenever it's convenient,
Yeah.
put it on the agenda.
yeah. And so potentially maybe we would make these changes and then send it to the committee ahead of time?
Ahead of
Okay, that'd be
Makes
great.
sense?
Yeah, because I think they meet before us in the month, so if maybe they have a chance to
Yeah. that
review
was-
it publicly
that
at
was
one of their meetings before they come to us.
I was gonna say, maybe Bob wants to, I mean, it's our committee, I guess we appoint them. But
Yes.
Bob is running that department. I don't know if we wanna charge him with walking through this with them.
I would think, maybe we should just, get it to them.
I was thinking we can write a memo
Yeah,
and attach this to the memo and say, here's what we've come up with. You're welcome to come to the next meeting. We're going to discuss it. Come on in, and then we'll just see how that unfolds.
okay. So we can, we're not doing any action on this, right? We're just, one
Yep,
revision-ish.
Yep.
And then, maybe can circulate it and then circulate it with the committee.
Yes.
Just
Colleen?
FYI, that committee meets on the 22nd.
Of this month?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got until the 22nd.
We'll do it this week.
You have 15 days.
Well, if it was like next meeting, we might not meet before your next, that's all I was saying.
Yeah, we'll push it out. I'd rather
Yeah.
to get a little time to see it.
Sounds good.
Okay. Thanks, Mark and Evan, for working on that. Moving along to select board reports. Mr. Jefferson?
Just a quick one. Just wanted to thank everybody who was able to come out for the celebration for the second night of Hanukkah, and thank you to the Hanukkah committee for all their work organizing it. I know it was a bit of a struggle this year, but it was a really nice event. Seemed to be well attended. Good feedback from the crowd. It just a little chilly. Maybe we should consider an indoor venue next time, but it was a really nice day. And I think everybody who attended had a good time. So, thank you.
Okay, great. Anyone else?
I'll just say EDC's, we had a meeting a few weeks ago, and so things are moving along. We are gonna, I think, task ourselves with taking on that business night venue like they had down the post office pub. I think that was good. So we're gonna start, I think, working on that, because we'd like to do that, I think, in March, which probably is gonna be April, because we're, you know. But we'll do it at sometime in the spring. We'll keep the board posted on that. I do need to put the charge on our agenda, hopefully for next meeting. Not to change the language of the charge. We may come back later and ask for some tweaks, but really it's just the membership. Because the makeup right now doesn't match the charge, and we got a good group. I think I talked about this. So we got to get that on the agenda. It's not a huge deal, but straighten that out. While I have the floor for a sec, we had talked about trying to bring in other committees. You know, we've had cable in a few times for other, variety of reasons, but it would be nice if we could pick a committee that advises us or reports to us and start that train. And I don't know
Yep, thanks for
who's
bringing
first on that, but
Yep.
you guys can decide who we want to invite to come in. But it's good to get updates from committees. They do a lot of work and give them some time.
Yeah, it's been on my brain and I haven't put it out there. So yeah, we'll
Okay.
get that going.
Great.
If not the next meeting, then potentially for the first February when we can choose a committee. How's EDC? Would they like to come in?
EDC? I don't think we're quite ready yet. Give us a chance. We're just getting going here.
Just kidding. Anyone else? It came up in correspondence. We were asked if anyone wanted to go to the Eagle Court of Review or Board of Review. So I ended up doing that for Carter Telefer. I might be saying his name incorrectly. And so, yeah, my son was super involved in Troop 107, and I was at the time. And so it's always great to see these kids achieve Eagle. And just FYI, if you're ever going by the VFW post, the Vernon post, so it's like off of 146, and is that Vernon, I suppose?
Yeah, that's Quinsig Village.
Yeah, exactly. So his project, which is really one of the big part of achieving Eagle, in addition to all the years' work they do beforehand, he built a stone like enclosure for retiring flags, and then there's going to be like these markers for each part of the military, around it. It was a pretty substantial project, so pretty cool actually. And then we had the master plan meeting last evening. We're going through drafts of chapters. We talked about transportation in addition to a couple other last evening. And so we're getting there. The information is all available online, and we meet the first Monday of every month, all virtually, if anyone wants to come to one of our meetings.
It's all virtual, huh?
Yeah, it's all been, Zoom.
That's tough.
For me it is. Most people it probably isn't, but. So we're getting there with that project. If you have any questions outside of here, I'm happy to chat with it, or if there's a number of people on the committee, sorry. Okay, moving along to TA report.
Madam Chair,
yep, sorry.
Yes, sorry, I didn't jump in quick enough. I sat in on a discussion about tariffs, believe it or not. And this was we get invites for the Council of Foreign Relations, and I don't know if you guys have been to any of those.
I'm not laughing because.
Yeah, no.
just FYI.
I was interested, and they have really, really highly qualified speakers for those. In the end, we don't know what's going to happen with the tariffs, so they painted a number of different scenarios that could play out. I think the only thing that municipalities can potentially do is to think about some of those supply chain impacts that we had during COVID.
Yeah.
And if there is any pre-planning that we can do in terms of materials and whatever, that could be a consideration as things evolve. But, with things being as they are at the moment, I don't think there's really a whole lot that we can necessarily actually do at this point. But it was an interesting conversation nonetheless.
Yeah, great, thanks, Matt.
Just
Anyone else? Yep.
Just one question for Matt. 25 Worcester Street. Is there an update on that? Like, where is that?
That has been, it's basically with the developer at this point. So that is, I'll send you the timeline that we got on it. That was probably 6 months ago or so when they came in. What they're doing at the moment is they're trying to come out with the pre-development funding. So it's all of until they have sort of something more substantial, it's really difficult because it's all nonprofit.
Right.
So it's all grants and that sort. They don't have a big war chest for development, so they have to find partners and grants and that sort of stuff to make this. So the timeline on those are very different than
Yeah.
commercial development.
But the trust is committed to that developer, like, do they, like, as far as the property goes, like, you guys are committed to them?
So we went through the RFP process.
Yeah.
Similar to what Grafton did with Upton Street. They were awarded because they had a compliant bid. So we did choose a developer, and he's been presenting to us regularly on sort of his process and what it looks like. And so at this point, we do have a timeline. We also have it hasn't been designed per se, but we do have his response to the RFP, which is similar to, what the first response would have been to 1727. It's I think it's 48 units. It's a fairly, I don't know, but the site is fairly level, so it would occupy a good majority of the site. But I can send you all this stuff.
Yeah.
If you want to take a look at it.
Yeah,
What,
that'd be
what's
cool.
actually been
I
proposed.
would just make one comment. Architecturally, I would just ask them to do the best they can to complement the neighborhood there. So there's
Sure.
a little antique neighborhood that is surrounded by, and it would be nice to recognize that in the exterior design of the building. So that
Absolutely.
looks nice.
So I think that will be going through ZBA. So they'll have pretty broad authority to make those kinds of asks. But I mean, hearing you loud and clear on that.
Yeah.
It's an important part of town.
Okay.
Good.
Anyone else that wants to hop in? Okay, send it over to you then. That's it.
Okay, town administrator report. Not a lot as far as DPW / construction projects goes. It's pretty cold outside and a lot of things have kind of stalled. But North Street sidewalk, they do continue to set curb and move along, which is nice. It's making some good progress there. Next one, we continue to try to get through the last pieces here of George Hill Road, Fay Mountain Road, Soap Hill, and Leland. Fitzpatrick Road Bridge, obviously we just talked about that on the 17th, but did our RFP complete on that?
Yes.
So we have awarded the bid and all of that. So,
Yep.
do you remember a project start time?
I don't. When I'm done sharing the screen, I can look at my email.
Okay, it's imminent, so we've already awarded it. It's sometime in the spring. I just can't remember the exact date. And then just a reminder, DPW Advisory Committee will come in.
There's our committee that'll be coming in.
There you go. I fixed the problem.
Asking you
So,
shall receive,
Anything else?
Mr. Dauphiné.
The chair did reach out to me this week, and I've got to respond to him as far as what tentative dates they might be interested in coming in the future. So
Just one question on North Street. If they're still setting curb out there, on frozen ground, that's a very bad practice. They should not be setting curb.
okay,
And that's because the ground's frozen, and when it thaws, they're all gonna move.
Right. Okay.
So. They'll keep working if you let them, that's the only,
yeah.
so.
I'll
we should shut
follow
it-
up
We
with.
should shut it down.
I'll follow up with DPW. The other thing that's not on here, I just wanted to give a shout out to the highway department. So we had a bridge that is in the Pell Farm area of town, up off of Soap Hill. Looks like somebody tried to drive some kind of a mechanized equipment across it. It's designed for people to walk on, so it did collapse pretty well. But I brought it to the attention of the highway department, and I think within a week they had removed it, rebuilt it, and put it back in place. So that was really nice. Very, very quick turnaround. So I appreciated that. And I just want to give them kudos for that.
Did they put a "Hey dummy, don't drive a tractor over this" sign?
We put a giant rock in the front of it. That's actually a good question. We should probably consider something to make sure. As far as the RECC, we're still working our way through the design process. Our original hope was that would be done with design on December 20th, but we're a little bit behind the curve on that. We had a couple of other issues crop up that we wanted to take care of first. But we are still on target with every other aspect of this. So Chief Minardi, Chief Matthew, and I continue to attend weekly meetings, and we're very excited about the the pace at which we're able to move. So it looks like it's going to be a good project. All right, grants. I went over this last time, but I was just leaving that in there as a kind of a budget slide. So just again, a real high overview. We started our original forecast deficit for the budget at $2.1 million. That's what we had shown in our original forecast. With the help of the school department and our finance department and everyone else that works here in the town of Grafton, we've made that number go down to about 1.3 million. And now we're talking about different strategies to close that gap. So not really wanting to give all the details yet because we're still workshopping a lot of it, but I think we've got a plan, and so we'll bring that to your attention at the next meeting in January, because on the 29th of January I have to present to FinCom, and I want to have that conversation with you folks first.
What's that date? So FinCom?
FinCom is looks like tentatively it's the 29th.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This is going to be way too small for anybody to see. But this is the ARPA list that we've circulated a number of times with the addition of 3 things. We talked at our last meeting about having to kind of maneuver some money around. And so we did that in the background. We allocated $100,000 to the electronic signboard, $100,000 to redesigning the clerk's entryway window, creating an accessible window at the clerk's. I don't know why I said clerk's like 9 times in a row. And then the remaining balance was $22,629.36, and we allocated that towards the employee wellness programs that we had discussed at our last meeting as well. Other than that, everything else remains the same. Next slide, Will. All right, and we've also been this comes up during the budget process. There's a whole different slide that's a lot more complicated than this, but I tried to boil this down just to talk about debt, because folks do frequently ask when things roll off, and so our current debt schedule for excluded debt. This is debt that if it rolls off will lower the amount of taxes that residents pay, but don't do anything as far as the town operational budget is concerned. So the first one we have rolling off will be the high school bond in fiscal 30. Now I want to make, just before I go too far in these numbers, I want to make one caveat. If you take the numbers in the bullet points and add them up to the total, it does not match. And I did not make a mistake. It doesn't match because I have to make a decision, and the year it rolls off, that number is our final payment. The total that we pay is fiscal year 26, and those numbers don't jive. See what I'm
Sorry,
saying?
say that again?
I know.
Nope, we don't see what you're saying.
In my head, doing this all day, this
Yeah.
makes perfect sense.
Yeah, of course.
I had to pick where the amount of debt that you pay changes every single year as principal and your interest deviate. So the number that I'm showing you for the debt schedule, without giving you the full presentation, I had to pick where I'm going to pull that number from, and I chose to pull that number from the last year that we're going to pay. So in fiscal year 30, we're going to pay $580,000 as our last payment.
I see.
In fiscal 31, for high school bond 2, it's 685. Maybe I did not do a good job of figuring out how to present this to you, but this is how it was working in my head at the time, and so on and so forth. The total that we're paying, that the taxpayers are paying in excluded debt for fiscal year 26 that we're working on the budget for right now is 3.7 million. Those numbers added up will be close to that, but it won't be spot on.
Got it.
Okay? I apologize if I overcomplicated that. Let's go to the next overcomplicated slide. As I did the same thing here. You will see that there are 3 high school debts that hit the general fund debt. This is your operational money that goes to paying this. The reason that these 3 bonds exist and are not excluded debt is that when I started 4 years ago, we refinanced all of the school debt. And we did that because over the next 10 years from that date, it saved us, not saved us, it saved the taxpayers about $1 million in interest. We were getting crazy good bond rates. We had just done our bond rating had gone up. It was really advantageous. Interestingly enough, because there's solar panels on the roof of the school, not all of that debt is tax exempt, and therefore, in the refunding mechanism, we had to issue 2 separate sets of bonds, ones that stayed in the excluded section and some that stayed in the general fund section. So this is the debt as it relates to whatever impact the solar panels have. It still comes out to be $1 million in savings. So just because it moved over doesn't mean that there's a problem there. And then we have an energy project that rolls off in fiscal 29. That's $392,000. And I believe that's the remainder of the Honeywell debt for when they redid this building. So that's a total in fiscal 26. Again, these numbers won't add up to $457,000. And that's all I have for that. I would like to do one more staff shout out if I could. I was fortunate enough today to witness 2 interactions that we had with seniors, both of which were having a tough time. The first one was brought to the attention of the senior center by Megan Lavoie in our assessor's office. She walked the individual over to see Lisa Kelly because she was having some difficulties, and we thought that we may be able to extend the services that we provide and maybe help out, but also to quasi-evaluate the person and make sure that they were safe to return home. And then later on in the afternoon, we had another elderly gentleman who happened to sit down outside the assessor's office, and Jamie, Tammy, and Megan from the assessor's office came out to the hallway and started interacting with the gentleman. He was having some medical difficulties, and so they stayed with him and had a conversation. Will wound up going down and helping out, as did Mary Loria. And Joe, our night custodian, he was there as well. And everyone was kind of, evaluating the gentleman, but also joking and having a nice conversation. And 2 of our staff, Tammy and Jamie, actually walked the gentleman out to his car to keep eyes on him and make sure that he was going to be okay. So I just thought I would like to recognize those folks for going above and beyond and really, making sure people are safe and healthy and helping them in any way that we can. So I thought that was really great.
Great,
Thank you.
thanks.
Fantastic.
Thanks, Evan. Yeah. And thank you for going through that, the numbers, I appreciate it, and for, potentially talking about broader overview of budget information prior to finance. I think that will be helpful for the board, just to kind of get a little bit of a bite on that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so moving along to, yep. go ahead.
Sorry. Do you remember? I can't remember offhand what the anticipated cost of the digital signage was total.
No.
Okay.
And there's a longer backstory to why the answer is no. But we have our original quote, and we know it's north of 100,000.
Yeah.
And so when we were doing our last minute reallocation of ARPA money, we decided we'll just put 100,000 towards it, and we can make up the delta with a different funding source. So that's why we did it. Originally, it was around 125,000 is what they were anticipating. They are providing us with some designs for the enclosure and some other things that will change that pricing a little bit, which we can then put back in front of the board to have you folks weigh in on what you would like it to look like. So.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along to correspondence. Anyone want to highlight anything in correspondence? Nope. Okay, we have no resignations. Any public comments here in the room? Anyone on Zoom?
Nope.
Okay. And we have a bunch of meeting minutes. Didn't we say recently, like, oh, we were so busy that month, and then I saw this? But I know it's meetings and time meetings. So I'll take a motion relative to meeting minutes.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Alamo?
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for October 1st, October 8th, 15th, 17th, 21st, and 29th of 2024 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion or questions on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
You know what?